Hey everyone, this is the Spoon Dude back with another Marvel Legends style DC custom figure. This time we're looking at my newest addition to the Batman family, Batgirl. I always planned on adding Batgirl to my roster. I've made Batman, Nightwing, Robin, and Catwoman, all of which I made individual videos on my channel, so make sure to check those out. So of course I had to add a Batgirl. I decided to make Batgirl after I had bought the Marvel Legends Deadpool and Negasonic Teenage Warhead 2-pack. The Deadpool figure is great. He's pretty much the reason I bought that set. He even made my top 10 figures of 2020 list, which you can see that video on my channel as well, so make sure to check that out. But the Negasonic figure was just not as great. First of all, I don't even really like the character that much, so, she's fine, but I didn't need a figure of her at all. So, not to mention, the figure itself wasn't even that cool. So, I decided I'd use it for a custom, and then I decided to make that custom a Batgirl. First, I had to decide which Batgirl I wanted to make her into. It was between Cassandra Cain or Barbara Gordon. I put up a vote on my Instagram stories, and surely enough, my followers chose Barbara Gordon. The Negasonic figure lent itself to Batgirl's all-black design, as it meant I wouldn't have to really worry about paint rub except maybe on the ankles, where they would be yellow for her boots. I went with the Batgirl costume from Batgirl Year 1 specifically. I didn't really follow it exactly, but I used that sort of as main inspiration. So to prep the figure, I removed the hair off the head. I used acetone to remove the original paint. I sanded and trimmed the ankle joints, and then got to work on sculpting. For the bat ears, I used sort of the same kind of flosser things as I did for my Batman's bat ears. They sort of serve as, a rigid structure that I can add the sculpt on top. I didn't quite place the ears symmetrically, as it turns out. So I really had to sort of sand them and reshape them with the sculpt to make them look roughly the same. It's still not perfect, but I think it looks okay. I sculpted the bat mask on the face, which was tricky since it was so small, and I could have probably spent a little bit more time refining and making more, smooth and symmetrical. But again, it's not crazy bad that I'm bothered by it. For the hair, I used the White Rabbit's hair from the Marvel Legends White Rabbit, which was basically some fodder that I had from my Hawkgirl custom. I also have a video on my Hawkgirl custom figure, so make sure to check that out. I did have to cut the hair a bunch to make it look right. It's quite a big, sculpt of hair, and there was a lot of extra pieces that I, had to trim off and then resculpt to fit the kind of smaller Negasonic head and make it look like it's coming from the back of her mask. Painting the Batgirl mask was easy enough, I guess. I made it just a black, and then I added sort of a blue highlight at the top, which I'm actually pretty proud of. Her face was kind of tricky to paint. Again, it's so small, and this was one of my first attempts at sort of painting a female face, and I think I got it okay. I painted the eyelashes and stuff, which I'm pretty happy with. For her hair, I'm not particularly happy with how I painted the hair. I did try to mix in some different reds and yellows to get different shades, but it does look a little bit sloppy, but it's fine. It's her hair. I resculpted her chest and then added the raised bat logo. Again, I was looking at Batgirl Year 1 for this specific bat logo. And then that's pretty much it for sculpting. The rest of the body I basically left alone, just adding some extra parts to get the bits and pieces of the Batgirl costume, like the glove cuffs, which I got from an X-Men Deadpool. They're actually just one of the wrist cuffs that I had to cut in half and then trim to fit the wrists. Then for the belt, I took some random blank belt that I just had in my fodder and added some DC Icons Batman pouches and buckle. I would have just used the original DC Icons Bat belt, but unfortunately I had cut it apart for a previous custom for some reason, so I had to settle with just sticking its pieces onto another belt. And honestly, the belt's probably the thing I'm least happy with on the figure. We'll get to how it's painted, but even just the way it looks as a belt, it's very, boring looking and doesn't quite look right. So yeah, let's get to the paint. It was both kind of easy and not. Obviously all the black was easy. The figure was already black. I just added some extra black on the parts where I had to remove the original paint, and not all of it came off, so I had to just add some extra black for a complete coverage. And then as for the yellow, it was quite annoying. On the boots and the logo, I think it was okay, especially the logo. I actually really like how smooth it looks on the logo. But then for the belt, like I mentioned earlier, it looks pretty rough. I used the spray kind of yellow first, and then added some darker yellow on top with my brush, and it just doesn't look great. I just don't like painting yellow. The Negasonic figure is supposed to be a real person, or at least, like represent the real actress. So it has a bit more realistic proportions than sort of the regular Marvel Legends comic figures. To offset this a little bit, I did give her Marvel Select Rogue hands, which are kind of big, and that helps it to kind of fit in the more cartoony comic booky aesthetic a little bit better. But sadly, she still does look a little bit odd next to like my Nightwing or the Batman, which have a lot kind of bigger proportions, whatever. Let's talk about her cape. This is the same sort of blue spandexy fabric that I used for my Martian Manhunter cape. I cut into the, Batman cape shape. I did want to make sure it was a bit, smaller than a Batman cape. It doesn't quite touch the ground or anything. I always picture Batgirl's cape to be smaller than Batman's anyways. I added wires on the side that I plugged into the top of the figure. So those make for some nice, posability. I had this idea of using a black primer to sort of shade the top of the cape black to sort of, blend with the black, with the mostly black, like face mask, and actually really like how that came out. It's not, it doesn't make the cape entirely black at the top, but it, it shades it enough that it's more than just a plain blue. So I actually really like how that came out. And surprisingly, the paint didn't really like flake off or crack on the fabric, or it didn't even stiffen the material, so I'm pretty happy about that. Overall, I'm decently satisfied with how this custom came out. At the end of the day, I kind of wish I did go with Cassandra Cain. She's a younger character, so this tiny body would have probably worked better for her. As it is, Barbara Gordon is quite tiny here, even being smaller than Tim Drake Robin, which does seem off to me. Oh well, I'm happy to have the Bat family from the new Batman Adventures, and at least I didn't have to buy a whole new figure, to make this custom. I just used the figure I had already gotten. I'm definitely happier having a Batgirl than I am a Negasonic the Hedgehog Teenage Mutant Ninja Warhead.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Negasonic Teenage... What the...
So, yeah. Let me know what you think of the figure in the comments below. Make sure to suggest what DC character I should make next. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next video. Thanks for watching.